write the story. And if you get more specific, we here in this Quad Cities area, we need to rewrite our story, right? But the question that we need to address is, what is our story? Who are we? And one of the things that we suffer from as Arkansans, and I've lived here longer than I've lived anywhere, so I consider myself one of y'all. Who are we? Where are we from? Who's from here? Why do I like living here? All right? We have to rewrite the story. We got to rediscover what it is that we enjoy about living in a place like this. We have to come together and share our common experiences. You and I can look at the same subject, but we're going to see it from different angles. Why do you love living in Cherokee Village or Ash Flat? Or why do you like living in this area? What is so special about living in Arkansas? What do you think other people need to know about a community like this? You and I are going to have different perceptions. We need to come together and discuss those sorts of things so that we can come up with a picture of what it is that we love about this area that we live. We also need, number two, to focus our storytelling. All right, you can't, if you want to promote your area, you can't do it with a shotgun approach. We need to have a singular focus, more like a rifle. Start small and then expand the message as you begin to tell it. But you share that message, one message at a time. In television, we got about 1.5 minutes to tell a story. Not a lot of time. So what we do is we focus on the big points of that story, and we tell that story. There's a lot more of that story, which is why we read the newspaper. But if you want to know the highlights of that story, we got about 1.5 minutes, so we tell you that story, boom, so you get the guts of it. We need to know what's the guts of our story, and we need to begin to share that, which is number 3. We got to tell our story. I thought I knew my Uncle Jim. I thought I knew who he was, but I had an incorrect image of who he was until he told his story and until I read it. Where can we tell our story where people can hear it? You know, in television there was this old saying that it doesn't matter how great your program is, if they can't watch it, it doesn't matter. I mean, y'all don't even know who I am. You can't even watch Channel 4. I'll be honest with you, I am kind of a big deal. You may not know that, but you gotta understand that. That's right. Well, thank you very much. You're just not up early enough to watch. Right? If they can't, when we share our message, we need to share it in such a way that other people have an opportunity to hear it. Internet is just blowing up. It's a great way. Television, radio, we need to focus where we need to tell this story so others can hear exactly what we want to say. Let me wrap it up with this. If you still think nothing can happen, if anything great is going to happen in this community, it's going to have to happen with somebody else, or otherwise it is not going to happen here because I'm surely not the one that's going to do it. You might be saying that to yourself. So let me close with this. And I'm going to get spiritual on you because that's what I do. Everything to me always comes back to the gospel, so I'm going to just share you a little bit of gospel here. If you've ever read the Bible, and especially in the New Testament, you read a lot about, in the Gospels, about a city called Bethsaida. All right? Now, ever heard of Bethsaida? All right, spiritual people, nod your head. There's pastors in here. They're looking at you, all right? You heard of Bethsaida was it was a tri-city. What a quad city? It was a tri-city. There were 3 cities: Bethsaida, there was Chorazin, and there was Capernaum. And they made up this little triangle right there on the edge of the Sea of Galilee. And all those people they communicated, they worked together, everybody in those communities. In fact, they would go to church at Chorazin. That's where the community synagogue was. But it was this little tri-city area, much like a quad city. And the thing about Bethsaida, though, it was just a tiny little fishing village. And they recently excavated Bethsaida, the site of where Bethsaida is. And they discovered what most of them already knew, but that these tiny little fishing villages were actually made up of only about 4 or 5 families. The thing was that those families, though, would grow pretty large. When the father and the mother would have a child, and that child would grow up and get married, the father would add a room to his house. He'd just add on to the house. And so when Jesus said something to his disciples, like, "In my Father's house there are many rooms," everybody knew what he was talking about, because that's what they did in that little tri-city area. That father would have a house, they'd start adding rooms for the children. When they start having, I told my kids, we ain't adding nothing to the house. I mean, graduate from college, you on your own. When we lock the door, you're not getting back in, right? Unless you're bringing us some grandbabies, then that's different. Right? So what they discovered was about 5 or 6 families out there, a population of about 200, 250 total in the town of Bethsaida. Itty bitty little poor dirt poor fishing village right there on the edge of the Sea of Galilee, filled with blue-collar people. But here's the cool thing. You know who came from Bethsaida? Peter, Andrew, James, John, and Philip. Almost half of Jesus' 12 disciples came from a tiny little blue-collar, dirt-poor fishing village. And those guys changed the course of the planet. When they allowed God to fill them up and make use of their gifts and talents and abilities, they blew people's minds. And if it can happen with people just like that, it can happen to you. See, groups don't affect change. Individuals affect change. Individuals impact their society one person at a time, which leads to 2, which leads to 4, which leads to 8, and so on and so on and so on, like that old shampoo commercial. You remember that one? And I told 2 friends, and they told 2 friends, and so on. I should have just kept with the Bethsaida story. So that's my point to you today as we get out of here. Guys, look, you need to allow God to fill you up and turn you into the person that He created you to be. Because if anything great is going to happen in this community, in this city, in this state, in this county, in this country, it's got to happen one by one by one. And if it can happen with a bunch of knucklehead fishermen in Bethsaida, it can happen with you people here too. All right? You just have to allow God to make you into the person He created you to be. All right, that's all I got for you. I am sleepy. Thank you very much.